Hey there, welcome to the Two Pastors Unplugged radio show. I'm Rick Probst. I love this guy, and I'm so glad I could get him back. Dr. Mark Jordan from Hope Church in Dallas. Last time, Doc, we talked about, well, you said you were a superhero geek. I call you a connoisseur.
I appreciate that. As I have the Superman book right over my shoulder.
Hey, I love that you do that, and not many people know that when you do preach there, you are wearing a cape, and it's pretty amazing. I was watching the Hope at the movies when you talked about Man of Steel, and
Yes.
just some really good stuff there. I want to talk to you about. Here we are in the final month or so of 2025, and we're sitting down chatting, and a lot of pastors and leaders watch and listen to the show, and I want to ask you about a few things just to help those that may be struggling this time of year. But it's good to see you, and I love that you always bring up your family before we go and record the show. You're just a great guy, and I appreciate all that who you are and all that you guys are doing over there at Hope Church. So how's it going? I noticed that. I mean, the place was rocking in the video. How's it going?
Oh yeah, things are going great. Seeing a real strong sense of revival and spirit happening in the place here, from our youngest to our oldest, and it's I tell you what, Rick, it's exciting to be a part of it. It's exciting to see a just a gathering of believers here who are looking to find ways to creatively point people to Jesus, and to help them to know that this life of faith is something that Christ calls us to every single day. It's good days and bad days and every day in between. But the reality is that Christ is inviting us into learning to live with Him and to walk with Him and to share that with others. And so that's one of the things that we really focus in hard here at Hope Church, is to try to help people connect to God's presence and activity in their everyday life and living. And I sure love it. It's an honor to be part of it. Also, honor to be pastor.
You mentioned revival, and it seems the. I mean, I'm talking to people all the time, leaders, lay folks, and I hear that and I see it. Something's going on here. There's almost like a shakeup, right? A lot of prayers have been going on over the years, and sometimes isn't it like that? We're praying, and all of a sudden, bang! It's there, and it's like, is this really happening? I
Yes.
mean, have you ever felt that way?
Oh, absolutely. Feeling that way kind of right now, to be honest with you, thinking and praying so frequently. I will pray, God, let me see the breakthrough. And all too often, it usually happens when I look in hindsight, where you can see God's fingerprints all over everything. And as if
Hmm.
we've already broken through, we just needed a new perspective to be able to not just see it, but also appreciate it.
Now, how do you maintain? Because we're talking two pastors, and on every level, right? You've got mega churches, mid-sized and small, and all are important to the communities, and all of them have calls of God, and they're doing, what God really wants them to do, and that's to minister to people and share the love of Jesus. But how do you maintain being positive? Because no doubt, every day for Dr. Mark Jordan is not a sunshiny day. I mean, there's got to be challenges in whatever areas of your life, because you're leading and pastoring, shepherding people, right? You're always going to have issues. How do you stay in the zone?
Well, that's a good question. I wish I could say that I always do, but hey, that's part of it. I have several different things that I consider and I look at, but really getting into the scriptures and looking at the biblical narratives and realizing how some of the heroes of the faith also struggled in their time. And shortly right after we finished our Hope at the Movie series earlier in the summer, I did a message on burnout and looked at Elijah and
Mm.
how Elijah had at Mount Carmel seen God do extraordinary things. And like in the next paragraph, he's like, God, just kill me now. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And the reality is I experience those ebbs and flows and highs and lows in my life just as easily as it is for anyone else. But I think one thing that I hold on to, and I try to use this in my regular prayer time as well as in my teaching and preaching, is looking at 1 Corinthians 13, verse 13, when the Apostle Paul wrote, faith, hope, and love abide these three, and the greatest is love. And what I've really come to realize and understand is that faith tells us that God is real. Hope tells us that God's way wins in the end, and hope is kind of like that arrow that is shooting from one to the other, animating our life to get us from recognizing that, yes, God is real, even though stuff that we're facing in the here and now, this everyday life and living, can be challenging at best. Hope tells us that there's going to be a resolution to it and a revolution with it. And so if we can allow God's love for us and then lived out in service and ministry to the world, that's going to get us from point A to point B, that straight line, that God is real and God's way does win in the end. And it's our job, our task, as well as our responsibility to live into that right now. And so I think that's really what it is. It's getting into the scripture and realizing that the heroes of their faith had their own downsides too. I was actually reading a book just a few minutes ago, reading in a book on generosity, and it talked about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane getting ready to give of his life, and how that powerful text that says, my soul is sorrowful even unto death. Even Jesus had some of those times when he felt the weight of the world and his responsibility, and as a part of that as well. And it was a struggle for him, but he always kept his eye on the Father, and he always kept his eye knowing what he was sent here to do. And I think if we can do that as people of faith, again, knowing God is real, with that hope, then when God's way wins in the end, and love is what animates us between the two, then we'll do okay. And God doesn't want us to do this alone. He wants us to saddle up with him, or to yoke up with him, to use a biblical metaphor. But he's also given us people to do life with. And sometimes those people are, they're like those warm blankets that I've probably been enjoying the last couple of mornings. It's been so cold, but sometimes they're like sandpaper to help rub off those rough edges and images. But hey, at the end of the day, we need both kinds, don't we?
Yeah. And you lead me. There was a question I had in my head I was going to ask you, and you kind of threw the softball to me. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Isolation, it's easy. I mean, I don't mean to be gender specific, but I think sometimes as men, we will isolate and try to figure it out ourselves. But you brought out two huge points as not only men or leaders, pastors, but don't isolate yourself from God. You've got the scriptures there to encourage you and to build you and to impart into you, but to one another. I think that's key. I think that's, hey, it's not all about me trying to figure it out myself. What is Doc Mark doing over there? And how can I connect with him and just get some insight on, hey, how do you get through this season of your life, Pastor Mark? How do you keep from getting bitter? Because you were preaching on what Hebrews 12:15, watch out for the root of bitterness. And I love the beginning of that scripture. You say, look after one another. And so that means that there's some part of our lives as leaders that we don't isolate, but we connect, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, there's so much to think about in that, because you're right. And we, coming out of this, the response to the coronavirus pandemic, so much has pushed and encouraged us to isolate, to withdraw. And I heard some crazy stat yesterday, and I wish I'd thought to write it down, but it's as though humans are interacting with other people 20% less than they were even just a couple years ago.
Wow.
And some of that is due to our over-reliance on digital technology for connection, because we absolutely got to do life together. We're supposed to be weaving our lives together with God and with other people. In Proverbs, we see that that cord of three strands is not easily broken. It's us, others, and God. And the whole idea of that Trinitarian nature of God is relationship, calls us into relationship, not just with him, but also with the people he's given us to do life with. And part of, I think, well, I know for myself, whenever I'm beginning to feel a little down, a little depressed, that natural inclination is to withdraw and
Mhm.
to lick the proverbial wounds. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying there's not a time and a place for that, because there absolutely is. You
Sure.
talk about Jesus. He took time to get away with the Father to pray, but that was also about getting his perspectives put back in order. And I think the same is true for us. We may need to isolate a little bit, but that's just a little bit in order to make sure that we have our perspectives right, that it's not just about the stuff that we deal with on an everyday basis, because God's dealing with it too. He sees what we're struggling with and suffering through. And I can't help but think about how sin breaks God's heart, but it also breaks our relationship with God. So he's inviting us back into that redeemed and restored relationship with him, so that we know that we're not going through this stuff alone. And that isolation it is just absolutely destructive if
Yes.
we allow it to be. But it's also one of the areas where the enemy wants to try to get into our minds, right?
Yeah.
He wants to try to convince us that either God isn't real or God isn't really good, one or the other. And we've got to come out of that. And it's so easy especially when we go through difficult times, to begin to think we're the only ones who are suffering. But you look around, we realize we're all going through difficulties.
We really, really are. Thank you for sharing that too, Doc. Doc Mark Jordan, Pastor Mark Jordan. I like calling him Doc. Hey, if I were a doc, I would have a T-shirt that says Doc. That's what I would have. Hope Church, Dallas. Check it out. I want you to go to placeofhope.org. Pastor Mark has some just great videos, great things going on. We're about to run out of time. What are you looking forward to over the holiday season? Obviously, right? Well, you're going to spoil your kids.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, that's a given. But what are you looking forward to?
Well, one of the things that we're doing here at Hope Church is we're going to do a message series called Missing Christmas. And we're going to look at how things like just the busyness and the distractions, as well as the greed that we can easily fall into, how those types of things can distract us, but also keep us from experiencing the full blessedness of the season. And so I look forward to doing that. And then, of course, with the family, we always try to take a quick vacation between Christmas and New Year before things ramp back up again.
Good.
And so we'll be looking forward to doing that. Don't exactly know what we're going to do yet, but it will be fun, and it will be an opportunity for us to just pull away for a little bit, to reinvest with each other, and to see where God leads us in 2026 and beyond.
Here's an old man's wisdom for you. Do nothing.
That sounds pretty good right about now. I was talking about sun this morning, thinking, we're about to hit December. It's about to get crazy up in here, but
Yeah.
It's always a blessed thing. So nothing sounds pretty good. I think, was it a Winnie the Pooh comic that said, sometimes nothing is the best something? Yeah.
Somebody needs to tell my wife that. She doesn't have that revelation, Pastor. She doesn't have it. Pastor
Play her
Mark,
podcast, maybe something like this one. You never know.
Pastor Mark Jordan, pastor of Hope Church in Dallas. Visit it. Check out the website, twoplaceofhope.org. Buddy, you are amazing. I love chatting with you. Let's do it again after the first of the year, shall we?
Likewise. I look forward to it always.
Bless you, buddy. Hey, another great Metro Atlanta pastor coming up next week. So join us. Have a good week. I'm Rick Probst. This is Two Pastors Unplugged. See ya.
God bless.